will go from their time to his. It's time for JJ McCarthy to validate the Vikings' faith in him, replace Darnold, and show why he belonged in the first round with the other greats from his quarterback draft class.
Back here in studio with Mina Kimes, Andrew Hawkins, Dan Graziano. Graz, I'll start with you. Last year's starter, Sam Darnold, 5th in both pass yards and passing touchdowns, the whole NFL. McCarthy recently wrapped Minnesota's offseason program. What more can you tell us about how the new QB1 looked?
Yeah, he looks the way they would expect him to look at this point in his developmental process. And that's the key thing to understand, the process. That Adam Schefter says there's nobody under more pressure, but they don't want him to focus on the pressure he's under. They want him to focus on the process. Is he ready to start right now? Probably not. Can he be the first weekend in September? The Vikings believe that he can. He's been working on detail stuff, fundamental stuff. Remember, he lost last year due to injury, so that's a year of development he didn't get, working on altering the trajectory of some of his throws. So that's been a lot of what the offseason has been like, a lot of learning, a lot of putting, the lessons into practice for JJ McCarthy. Kevin O'Connell would have told you this time last year that Sam Darnold wasn't ready yet to be their starter, but he believed he could get him there by the first weekend in September, and he did, obviously. So they believe the same thing about JJ McCarthy. They believe in their process. They think he'll be ready.
Hawk, I want to follow up on that point with you. We saw how it went last year, 14-3 regular season. I mean, the 1 seed in the NFC was in play till the final game of the regular season for the whole league, Week 18. McCarthy, I know not officially a rookie, but essentially a rookie. How confident are you that he can lead this team to a similar level of success?
I mean, that's setting the bar really high, right, when you're talking about 14-3. But I do think JJ will have a lot of success in this organization because of that infrastructure that we just saw in the piece. Everything is set up in that way. And when you look at the Minnesota Vikings, when Kirk Cousins was in there, they had that success under KOC and some of that infrastructure. Sam Darnold comes in. Nobody in this football world would have predicted what we saw from the Vikings last year with Sam Darnold, but that infrastructure helps. You talk about KOC, you talk about Josh McCown, you talk about his pass catchers. Yes, Justin Jefferson. Jordan Addison could be a #1 receiver based on his ability. Hawkinson could be a #1 receiver somewhere based on his ability, even though he's a tight end. So when you put all those things into play, it becomes, okay, JJ, how quickly can you take what we're talking about in the meeting room and some of the things that you witnessed last year and put them into practice with your actual experience? Because it is going to be different. Gross talked about trajectory of balls and the way that when he gets on the field, how fast he can process it. We saw a little glimpse in the preseason. I'm confident JJ will go right along with the rest of those quarterbacks I just talked about because of the infrastructure that the Minnesota Vikings have.
Yeah, Andrew, it's a great infrastructure, and it's also one that they improved this offseason. If they had a weakness, it was the interior of the offensive line, and they invested heavily in that, both in free agency and the draft. And that's going to help JJ not only in terms of pass protection, but also run blocking, which I think is something they really need to improve at this year. Not just because he's a rookie quarterback and he comes from a run-heavy offense at Michigan, but also because this offense did lack balance at times. They faced the second most too-high coverage in the NFL, unsurprising given the pass catchers Andrew just laid out, but they ran into those looks at a below-average rate. I think if they can bring that up and make defenses have to respect the run more, that is going to help JJ as well, in addition to, of course, being surrounded by so much talent in terms of the receivers and tight ends.
But that's not who Kevin O'Connell is. Kevin O'Connell likes to throw the ball. So that's the type of style of offense that Kevin O'Connell likes to run. He's like a Sean McVay in that regard, or even like an Andy Reid in that regard. He's not like a Shanahan who wants to run the ball, or like a Harbaugh in that regard. So, it's going to be interesting with JJ McCarthy, and let's be clear here. All right, I mean, I posted videos. When was this video? June 12th, 2024. Confident Sam Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings will shock the NFL. 10 months ago, August 14th, Minnesota Vikings can be true contenders with Sam Darnold. Don't panic. Which one? When is this from? This is from a year ago as well, June 13th, 2024. Confident Minnesota Vikings can win with Sam Darnold and over JJ McCarthy. So, yeah, I mean, it's just, don't say nobody believed. And also Mark Sanchez talked about it as well. So, it's so interesting to me because I remember when everyone remembers this, when Nick said at the Chicago Bears that Caleb Williams is going to the best place a rookie quarterback has ever been drafted to, the best situation ever, and because of that, he's like, Caleb is going to be a MVP candidate, and he's going to, go to the Super Bowl. And you could make the argument that JJ McCarthy has now been brought to the best possible situation that a rookie quarterback has ever gone to. An awesome defense, not only an awesome offense, but now what should be, their O-line wasn't even that terrible last year, by the way, but an upgraded O-line, elite weapons, obviously, like literally one of the most elite weapons in the NFL with Justin Jefferson, and an awesome offensive head coach, play caller, quarterback whisperer, etc., in Kevin O'Connell. And you have that. So it's just like, you can't ask for a better situation if you're asking for a better situation, you're just greedy. If you're God and if you're praying to God and you're like, please God, help me, God's gonna be like, what else do you want, man? You got drafted in the first round. You're gonna get paid a ton of money, whether you ever play ever again. Like, you still got a ton of money now just by being drafted in the first round. You win a natty. I send you to Minnesota. You got an awesome stacked roster, an awesome coach, an offensive quarterback coach, essentially. Like, look, what else do you want? You're in Minnesota, an awesome area, awesome city, awesome town, awesome people. It's like, you better your prayer should be nothing but just gratitude. You shouldn't be asking me for anything else, man. It should just be nothing but thank you, God, thank you, God, thank you, God. I mean, so it's just, the best thing is that whether JJ McCarthy is the guy or not, we're gonna find out. And I still give plenty of room for him to struggle, for him to be a rookie, for him to just have his great moments and to have his absolutely awful, like, head smacking moments, because that's what happens in the NFL. But you're not going to be able to play the game where you're like, well, he didn't really have help. Well, the defense, I mean, he needed to put up 35 points just to win a game. Like, the coach, I don't know. I think, it's time for them to move on, and they've had so-and-so as their head coach for the last 10 years, and he's a defense, this, that, wrong hire. Like, there really will be no excuses. So it really will all come down to JJ, which is an exciting place to be in, because you're going to be able to evaluate who he is. And you are going to be able to reach conclusions a lot quicker, because you're not going to have to play this guessing game. What would this guy look like with a better coach? What would this guy look like with a better quarterback, with a better defense? What would this guy look like with receivers who can actually catch the ball? Whatever it may be. You're not going to have to play that game. And so that's a cool place to be in. That's a great place to be in. Great place to be in. So I do not think they're going to be able to just land and, I don't care. I disagreed with Nick's take to begin, even if it was true, and it obviously ended up being false. But even if it was true that Caleb was going to this unbelievable situation, and et cetera, it's just, it takes time to have success in the NFL. And even though he's going to a great place, JJ McCarthy is young. And when we look at some of these other quarterbacks who have had fast success on the quicker side, like most recently, of course, Jaden Daniels, he was an older quarterback. He had a lot more snaps, a lot more time in college. And as Travis O'Shea pointed out, it's really funny that, people brought down Bo Nix for having so many snaps and for having so much time in college, and said, this is actually bad. This is why he's not that good. And then on the flip side, it's like, see, JJ McCarthy's too young, doesn't have a lot of snaps, this or that. And it's just like, people can't decide how they feel about something, or when something is good or when something is bad, depending on whatever conclusion they want to reach. They really look for reasons to confirm how they already feel, rather than look for the reasons to inform how they should feel about something. And so it's gonna be a ride for JJ for sure. And I think he'll be set up to have a pretty good year, and I think there's going to be moments when he looks really great, but then there's going to be moments when it's going to be very much like You just got to let the team do the work around you, right? Like, it's just we're going to need a very little from you. And you're going to come away with wins. Like, that's the benefit of a team like this. If you looked at it like a Bo Nix, even earlier on in the season, when he was not playing great. I mean, he wasn't playing bad, but it just wasn't coming together just yet. Even Jaden Daniels, for that matter, for the first couple of games or so. The benefit is as long as you're not like a complete disaster where he's just like holding on the ball too long, getting sacked, strip sacked, 3 interceptions and a half or something. As long as it's not like a complete like, oh my God, this kid is so overwhelmed. Like, what the heck is going on here? It's like this team should still be good enough where you can come away with wins. Like, that's also the key point. Now, you have to look at the schedule, and the schedule, of course, will be hard, and the division will be hard, no doubt about it. But this roster is great. This roster is clearly an elite roster with an awesome coaching staff. So it's like, that's why the floor here should still be wildly successful. Because JJ McCarthy would essentially have to just prove to at least be a good enough backup quarterback. One of those backups who you're like, he's a backup quarterback, but he's going to have like a 10-year, whatever, a long career in the NFL because people will always want him. He can definitely, stabilize a team after their starting quarterback goes down, and he can still win you 4 or 5 games. And, if you have to throw him into a playoff game, he can get it done. If JJ just proves to be essentially a backup quarterback, it's like, well, then this team is going to be able to rip off a lot of wins. But in that same breath, I'm also though not going to say, well, Kirk Cousins had success and Sam Darnold had success, and therefore JJ McCarthy year 1, week 1 is just going to hit the ground running and just ball, and this team's going to be back to being a top team, and no one's going to be able to get. It's just like, to me, that's obscene. Dude, Kirk Cousins was a seasoned veteran, and despite what you want to understand, he had a lot of success in Washington. In less than ideal circumstances, quite frankly. And Sam Darnold was also, again, a seasoned veteran. And when we talk about some of these other quarterbacks that Kevin O'Connell worked with, they had some moments, but then they also fell apart. Okay, there's a reason why Dobbs is not your quarterback right now. It felt like, oh my God, this guy, he's going to take over the NFL now. And it's like, no. So it's just like, you still need a quarterback who can ball. You still need someone who can get the job done. And he still needs to learn how to play in the NFL, JJ McCarthy. So that is still very much a thing that JJ is going to need to learn how to do. It's a pretty big thing. So, and it's okay to admit that. It's okay to acknowledge that. So, but I do love how divisive, I see this now in like all my Vikings videos. I love, I don't know how it happened, but I love how divisive JJ McCarthy has become in the Vikings as a whole. Because I'm all for it. I am all for it. It's just makes it so much more interesting to me and more fun to talk about, more fun to discuss. And yeah, it is interesting. I understand a lot of people believe that Caleb Williams was going to be this generational talent, but there was this whole idea that the NFL was going to be easy for him and that the roster was stacked, this amazing roster, and therefore it's just going to be easy wins for him. And yet here we have a Vikings team that we know without a shadow of a doubt won a lot of games the year before. An established roster with established stars. Not like, well, we know Justin Jefferson had a great year, but like, can he do it again, right? It's like, it's not one of those situations here. It's not one of those. Kevin O'Connell was a great first-year head coach, but like, will he be able to adapt in year 2? Like, right? Like, that's not the situation. So we know the roster is there. We know the coaching staff is there. But yet there's still a lot of doubt around this team, around a first-round quarterback, the 10th overall draft pick. I find it fascinating. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Minnesota Vikings and JJ McCarthy? How quickly do you think they can hit the ground running? And what do you think of realistic, a combination between realistic expectation and realistic prediction for this team and JJ? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. It's whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're all on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.